The Wicked King, a story of rebellion and racism. Kids' adventure stories. Written by Jeff Child. Narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Listen to the story of Auridius, an average human citizen in the coast country. He finds himself in a dilemma that is bound to happen, a disaster that had a jumpstart years ago when the black and white villagers intermingled. Status, a black person, has become king. He is the rightful heir to the throne. At first, events appear to unfold by following the common pattern of history, but the inhabitants of the coast country soon find out that this evil dictator has other plans for his country. He is about to destroy the so-called peace that has been kept for so long. Get caught up in the intriguing story of a hostile takeover, a rebellion, and a difficult political situation with an honorable hero at its center. Chapter 1. All Seems Peaceful. His name was Auridius Maximus Franciscus. Nobody ever used each other's last names, so most people just called him Auridius. Auridius was a brave man with an integer heart. He valued the lives of those around him and stayed true to his principles. He had a wife and 3 children. His wife's name was Amelia, and his children were called Bethania, Maticia, and Selina. He had been living with his family in the coast country for the past 20 years now. The first 10 years of his life he had spent in the miners region. And although he loved it in the coast country, he was a little worried too. People were nervous. You could tell when you wandered the streets. They were awaiting some kind of turnaround, despite the continuous rut they were used to. Things were going to be different. Very different. Here's a little bit of information about the history and geography of the coast country. They were called that way because they bordered the southern lands, where with millions of blacks where they resided. The closeness to those lands had made the coast country vulnerable for a controversy in ideas about race and origin. The black people began to live peacefully among the white villagers. There were no problems at first, since they abided by the rules and precepts of the country's magistrates. However, their numbers grew, and they were already pushing the limits each day by breaking those same rules and making up new ones. Integration was a slow process that took almost a century. More and more black people began to live in the village, slowly turning it into a giant metropolis. The population grew from a few thousand to more than 100,000 within 100 years. And as is often the tragic case, the locals began to despise the blacks. They imposed obligations upon their heads, while giving themselves a variety of exclusive privileges. Blacks were discriminated against, and it was no wonder that they slowly and mutually concluded that they had to fight back. It always started with the regular stuff like bullying, teasing, and calling names. Auridius became aware of the situation when his daughter came home one day and told him, "Dad, something bad happened at school." "What happened?" "One of the black kids in my class, Eric, was just walking on the playground and somebody made him trip," Selina said. "That's not very nice. Why did they do that?" Auridius asked. "I don't know, but the kids who did it weren't black. They called him Eric Schmerich and said he was a stupid black kid good for nothing." "Thanks for telling me," Auridius said. This was not the first occurrence. His 3 daughters often related stories about discriminate or racist remarks. Possessions were stolen, fights took place, and mean nicknames were made up for the black people with brown eyes who peacefully lived amongst them. And it didn't stop there. One day, a law came that black people were not to be hired for the following jobs, and that they were denied the right of a higher education. Their taxes were higher, their income was lower, and they had to address the white villagers with "Sir," "Madam" above me when talked to. Despite his ethnic background and his elevated status by these national rules that slowly crept into the system over the years, Auridius was not pleased with these developments. It was wrong, he thought. The inhabitants of the coast country had to be considered equal, especially since they contributed equally to the nation's wealth. It began to go both ways. "Dad, Dad," Bithynia said one time, running into the room. "What is it, Bithynia?" Aurelius asked. "You look upset." "You have to come outside," she said. "3 boys are beating up a black person." Aurelius sped outside to come to the rescue. He looked at 3 boys pounding on a black boy on the pavement. The boy was lying on the street, helpless to defend himself. The boys were kicking, spitting, and calling him names with hate in their eyes. "What is going on here?" Aurelius yelled angrily. "Get out of here immediately!" "This black boy forgot to say, 'sir,' above me when he talked to me," one of the boys said. "So?" Aurelius asked. "It's against the rules. Didn't you know? They have to show proper respect for their superiors." Aurelius sighed. He noticed this wasn't going anywhere. The boys already put in their heads that they were more important and more valuable than these blacks. He didn't know what to tell them, besides a speech about equality and friendliness, but he knew that wouldn't do any good. "Well, it still doesn't give you the right to beat him like this," he said. "How would you feel if I would beat you up for not being polite to me?" One of the boys looked at him with a surprised face. "So what?" he said. "It's just a stupid black kid." So much for Aurelius's speech. He couldn't re-educate these boys according to his honorable standards. There was no time for it. Therefore, he reached out his hand and pulled the black boy up from the ground. "Did you forget to say those lines?" he asked. "Well, yes," the boy said. "But I didn't do it on purpose, I swear." "Okay, next time don't forget," Aurelius said as he rolled his eyes. "Now, go, before anything else happens to you." The boy went home. Aurelius left the other boys standing there and took his daughter by the hand. He lifted her on his shoulders and walked back into the house. "Yay, horsey!" she said. After a few spins and a funny horse impression, Aurelius put her on the floor and said, "Remember what you saw here, Bithynia. What these boys did was very wrong. You did a good job for telling me. You should never consider anyone less because of their skin color or the shape of their bodies." "Not even the color of their eyes?" Bithynia asked. "Not even that." "How about if they wear ugly clothes?" Bithynia asked again. Aurelius laughed. "Are you thinking of anyone in particular?" "Yes, Chloridia. She was wearing this thing with orange and red and some weird blue. It was so ugly." Aurelius laughed again. He wondered why he was so lucky to experience the little world of 3 daughters by listening to their far-fetched stories and random ideas about outward appearance and behavior. He loved his family, and he was going to do whatever it took to protect them if the situation would ever appear. That night he lay in bed with his wife. "The cultural differences in this city worry me, Amelia," he said. "What makes you say that?" she asked. "The reports are all over the news. The rules become stricter. All the black people's privileges are taken away. Criminal behavior is only encouraged by those tight limitations. This morning, I witnessed a police officer who picked up 3 blacks and a white person. He let the guy go and arrested the 3 black guys without even thinking about it. Yesterday, I saw a man ordering another black man around. When he didn't do as he was told within 2 seconds, he started yelling in his face, telling him that he was worthless and stupid and filthy. It's getting out of hand." "I have noticed things too," Amelia said. "I just don't know what to do about it." "I don't know either," Aurelius said. "But I am afraid that if nothing gets done soon, it will blow up in our faces. These blacks came to these lands expecting a fair treatment, and all they got was belittling and demeaning behavior by people who should know better. Sometime they will strike back. They outnumber our race. So what will we do then?" "Perhaps you should start a campaign," his wife suggested. "You know, change people's minds about things." "Perhaps." Chapter 2. Rising Rebellion. He should have seen it coming, the rebellion and all. But the way it happened was not what he expected. It was more sudden and more dramatic than how he thought it would be. This is what happened. The king had died, and the lands were left without a government for months. The king's son was a complicated mixture of a black and white family situation. Several factors had contributed to this strange phenomenon, but let it be enough to say that he was the rightful heir to the throne and the next person in line to rule the country. His skin was black and his eyes were brown, a hollow entrance of what could have been his soul, although many doubted that he had one in the first place. The king's son was named Status. He had been a rebellious child by nature, but the teenage years of his life had only made this trait worse. The queen had already passed away years before that, and Status had grown bolder and ruder every day, sometimes visiting bars and ending up in fights, stealing from the whites and joining certain city gangs that were roaming the streets by night. His royal inheritance was something none of the whites were looking forward to, which is why the king's death had caused political unrest. Black citizens with purple shirts were holding political campaigns and protesting in the streets, demanding that their new king should be appointed the throne. People in white shirts, on the other hand, were walking around with signs that indicated a removal of the royal house entirely. They wanted to get rid of the system of kings, and claimed that Status wasn't an appropriate ruler, so it would be better to figure out how to form a democratic or presidential government. These were the circumstances of the coast country at the time. The future was insecure. People had become agitated and impatient. Something needed to be done. "Hey, Auridius," one of his friends asked when he entered the house. "Are you coming? We are protesting and demanding a new government system. This way, the black people will lose their power, and we will prevent that sketchy Status from becoming king." "I am keeping myself away from all these political dramas," Auridius said. "Sorry, man. You're on your own for now. Good luck." "Dad, what are they doing?" Maticia asked. "They are protesting." "Why?" "Because they don't want Status to become king," Auridius explained. "Do you want him to become king?" Maticia asked. "No," was the answer. "Then why aren't you protesting with them?" "Because I don't want anyone to see me getting involved. If it sways the other way, the blacks will take over, and you don't want to be on the other side if that happens. I think it's better to not get involved." "Okay, I won't get involved either," Maticia said. "What were you going to do about it?" Auridius asked with a smile. "They are voting in school," she said. "They are asking everybody if they want a new king or if they want a different system." "Strange," Auridius said. "I don't think they should get kids into this." "Yeah, just tell them that you are neutral, Maticia. This will keep you out of trouble if something bad happens." Chapter 3. The New King. Dad, wake up, wake up!" Auridius heard before opening his eyes. His 3 lovely daughters were jumping on the bed, more wound up than in the previous few weeks. They were shaking him by touching his shoulders, and they were giving him a kiss on the cheek. "What is going on, girls? Don't you know that this is the one day of the week I sleep in?" "But Dad, you have to know about this. It's big. The new king has taken over." When Auridius heard that, he sat up immediately. "What?" he asked. His wife entered the room and looked at him, a little scared. She nodded as to confirm what their daughters were saying. It was true. Status had become king, even though many had doubted whether or not he was able to pull it off. He did it. Nobody knew how, but it didn't matter. The new king would dictate how the country would be ruled, and Auridius didn't think any good would come out of this. "This is terrible," he said as he sighed. "Well, let's hope for the best, kiddos. Just be extra careful from now on." "I heard they are having a huge gathering at the city square," Amelia said. "It may be the best thing for us to go and see what the consequences are of this sudden change. The king might address us, and I am dying to find out what he will say." "Sure," Auridius said, "but let's make sure we stay together. It may not be such a happy occasion." The whole family left after getting ready and arrived at the big city square. A few thousand people had gathered. Blacks and whites had all come together on the Grand Plaza to listen to the new king's speech, curious to see what sort of changes would be made, if any. Some people were holding signs with words like, "Long live the king," or "Finally a righteous ruler," while others were holding signs with words like, "Away with the king," or "New government system." It was chaotic. People were fidgety. They sensed the tension in the air. Many people weren't satisfied, and it was a mystery how the new king had suddenly gained his status. "Mom, are you sure we want to be here?" Bethania asked. "Yes, this is important, sweetie," she said. "If the king will make certain changes, it is better to know about them." "That black guy over there is staring at me," Selena whined. "He is scary." "Just look the other way, dear. He will go away," Amelia said. People were shouting. Some of them sounded angry. A few were clenching their fists and holding them in the air. Others were just waiting for the king to show up. In front of the crowd there was a humongous building with a balcony. The building was ancient and authentic, and was one of the first things the founders of the city had built. It functioned as some kind of pulpit to address the inhabitants of the coast country. Many people were looking up to see if the king would show up and give them the aspired updates. Chapter 4: The New Law. Finally, after a lot of waiting, the new king showed up. Everybody looked up. Slowly, the crowd became silent, hushing each other and expecting Status to motivate and inspire them with his beautiful words. Status looked like a shady figure, not because of his black skin, but because of his sinister eyes, his dark demeanor, his thick eyebrows, and his black crown with green gems on it. To some of the white children, he looked a little scary, but the black people loved him. "White and black men, women," he started. "Many of you know me as a rebellious teenager, a licentious scatterbrain. You may think that I lack the courage and experience to lead this country, but you are wrong. Those days are long gone. I am disciplined now, and I will help this country to develop the same discipline. The king, my father, has requested on paper that I take his place. The evidence is here." Status held a large manuscript signed with the king's signature. "I bet you that piece of paper is fake," Iridius whispered. "Maybe," his wife said, "but it looks like he convinced everyone that it is not. I fear the worst." "Mom, quiet," Maticia said, putting her finger in front of her mouth. "Oh, excuse me," Amelia said with a smile. "I didn't know you were so eager to hear the king's speech, too." The king continued, "I now hold all the rights and privileges of a worthy heir. You, as citizens, are expected to obey my every command and learn from me as your rightful leader." He turned his head around and beckoned one of the Ender servants to hand him a big scroll. Most of the scroll fell down as the new Ender King held the top and started reading. "The new rules for the kingdom are: 1. From now on, every white inhabitant must address black inhabitants with, 'O exalted one.' Transgressing this law will result into severe penalties. 2. All whites must yield 50% of their possessions to blacks. The possessions will be collected and divided by the National Guards. Failure to obey this rule will result into imprisonment. 3. Every white who doesn't have a valid passport will be arrested immediately. 4. Black people will now enjoy the highest educational resources. All whites will be excluded from these programs. 5. The new tax law requires whites to hand over 90% of their earnings to the national treasury. Blacks are required to pay only 9% of their earnings. Failure to pay taxes will result into serious punishment. 6. Greetings in the street must now be in my name, saying, 'Hail to the wonderful king.' Any other greetings will be eliminated. Disobeying this law will result into possession of goods. 7. If any black person has a complaint about a white person, precise investigations will follow, and the claims can result into the imprisonment of the said white. 8. A 9 o'clock p.m. curfew has been put into effect for all whites. Blacks are to stay up and roam the streets as they please. Local police agencies will ensure that this curfew will be held by the whites. 9. All white women will bow to black men whenever they meet one. Failure to adhere to this rule will result into loss of personal privileges. 10. Relationships between blacks and whites are strictly forbidden. Disobedience will result into imprisonment. Our royal house and the National Guards will see to it that these rules and precepts are strictly enforced and kept. The crowd became even more restless. White inhabitants were yelling. None of them agreed with the new rules this strict dictator was imposing on them. They wanted a new king or no king at all. This status character was out of line. How could he do this to them? A little over the top, don't you think? Amelia said. A little? Aurelius asked. That must be the understatement of the year. This guy is crazy. A curfew, 90% taxes, no higher education? What is his problem? Well, it sounds a little like some of the rules the whites made up, don't you think? Now we are getting a taste of our own medicine. I know. I didn't agree with a lot of the old laws either. They were racist and demeaning towards the blacks. But this is taking it a step farther. Our laws were never that strict. Daddy, does this mean we have to give half of our toys to black children? Matisia asked. I don't know, Aurelius said. But I think we better get out of here before we get caught up in the violence. The family tried to find their way through the masses, back to the street that led to their home, but they were held back. There was pushing and beating and shouting. Whites were beating up blacks, and blacks were beating up whites. It was total chaos. Aggression was in the air. The kingdom was on the brink of anarchy. But the new king didn't tolerate such behavior. He immediately ordered his guards to go down and stop the madness. They dashed into the throng, stopping the white men and bashing people's chests with their shields, after which they arrested dozens and took them to prison. Meanwhile, the fight was going on in several parts of the square. Eventually, Aurelius's family had reached the street they tried to reach. Good, we're here, he said. Let's go home. Wait, his wife said. Where is Selina? I thought she was with you, Aurelius said. She's still in there, Amelia said in fear. Please, honey, go back and get her out of there. I will. Don't worry, just wait here. I will find her. Aurelius ran into the mad crowd, hoping to see his beloved daughter in a heartbeat. He pushed a black guy aside, ducked when a royal guard was trying to hit him with a club, and jumped over a knocked-out body on the pavement. He listened carefully, and his eyes scanned the multitude. Dad! He suddenly heard. He turned his head. It was coming from the left side. Selina! He shouted back. Hold on, I will be right there to get you. It was easier said than done. The violence by fierce fanatics and political protesters was all around him. He even had to punch a few outraged individuals to get through. He looked again. Where did she go? Oh, there. Selina was squatting, holding her head down and her hands on her head, trying to protect it from the craziness that was going on. She was screaming loudly and crying at the same time. Gotcha, Aurelius finally said as he picked her up. Fortunately, it was easier to get out of the fighting masses, and he found his way to the rest of his family within minutes. In a way only a concerned parent can, he carefully put down his daughter and asked her if she was hurt. I think I bumped my leg and I fell, but I covered my head so I wouldn't get hit, she sobbed. It seems like it's okay now, Aurelius said. Let's go home, kids. As fast as their legs could carry them, and as fast as Aurelius could carry two of his daughters, they ran home, relieved and well. Finally, they were safe. For now. Chapter 5. Underground. It had been several days since the riot. Soldiers already entered every white's home and confiscated half of their possessions. Aurelius's home was no different. They were poor now, since they never had much to begin with. But now that they lost so much and had to pay most of the money they made on the job to taxes, it was hard to make ends meet. Aurelius came home from work that day. Hail to the wonderful king, he said. Oh, come on, his wife answered. Don't give me that nonsense. We're home now. Do you have any idea how much I am being watched? Aurelius asked. They will hold anything against you that they can find. I don't want to end up in prison, do you? No, but there's nobody here. Don't worry about it. Let's just eat. I prepared dinner. Thank you, Aridius said as he took a seat at the table. Kids, dinner time, Amelia shouted. Their 3 daughters ran downstairs and sat at the table. They looked hungry, and their big eyes were following the pan carefully. What did you make this time, Mom? Bethania asked. Just something simple, she responded as she lifted the lid from the pan. That's it? Just soup? Bethania asked. This is all we have, sweetie, her mother answered. But I liked the chicken we had last week, Maticia said. I know, but we have to adjust. This is what we have, so this is what we'll eat. I understand, Mommy, Selena said. I like soup. Thanks, Amelia answered with a smile. Why don't we have more? Bethania asked. The Ender King took it from us, remember? Mom answered. Then we must go and steal it back, Bethania said. You know we cannot do that, sweetie. It's impossible, and it's dangerous, so just accept it. Actually, Aridius said. His wife looked surprised. What's in your head? She asked. Just thinking, Aridius answered. That night they heard a knock at the door. Aridius told everyone to stay back. He stood up and walked towards the door. He had never been so suspicious before, but the new circumstances forced him into this position. Who is it? He asked. It's Tharkus from work. Aridius opened the door and saw the truthful man standing in front of the door. Hail to the wonderful king, he said. May I come in? Yeah, hail to the wonderful king, Aridius answered. Come inside before I start beating my head against the wall because of this new greeting rule. Aridius closed the door and let his friend in. Tharkus wasn't going to beat around the bush, and began, There are those who think they can undermine the king's authority. An underground movement has been formed in the past few days. Some of them are your friends, others are strangers, but all of them are whites, of course. We feel that you should join us with your strategic insights and expertise. Will you join us? Aridius looked at his wife and kids. It's not safe, is it? He asked. That depends, Tharkus said. If you're discreet enough, which we will help you with, we will be able to maintain and build up the resistance. Aridius's wife nodded silently. She didn't want anything to happen to her husband, but the new way of living had become unbearable. Aridius looked at her and then nodded to Tharkus. Great, he said. There is a meeting right now. If you can, please follow me. Hold on, Aridius said. Are you being followed? And isn't it almost past the curfew? I checked thoroughly, Tharkus said. Trust me, it's only a few blocks away. Fine, Aridius agreed. I will come with you. Aridius gave his wife a hug and left with Tharkus, following him through the dark of the night. They waited at every corner, watching for marching soldiers in the city streets. It took them twice as long as if it had been in the daytime, but eventually they came to the meeting Tharkus had talked about. Opening the door, they were greeted by the others. There were 14 other men sitting around a table. Aridius knew some of them, but not all. After a few introductions, one of them stood up and said, Gentlemen, my name is Laxus. We are here today to halt the evil tyranny of Status the King. Which, if I dare say, I don't blame him for being this way, one of the men said. Excuse me? What is your name? The man who stood up asked. What are you suggesting? My name is Devious, and I just wanted to say that he is just doing what we did with the law. Instead of discriminating against the blacks, he is discriminating against the whites. You can't get angry at him for becoming this way. His race was suppressed by us. Let's not forget that. He is just getting back at us for what we did to them. My good sir, Laxus said, you cannot compare these things. Yes, I have to admit that our laws were becoming more racist as the years passed by. I guess we shouldn't have denied the blacks certain colleges or imposed our superiority on them in certain social manners. But we have never charged so much taxes, made their women bow to our men, forbidden interracial relationships, or thrown everyone in prison who wouldn't pay 90% of their taxes. The new king has taken it too far. Oh, and what we did was not too far? Is that what you're saying? Devious asked. I don't deny that. But now the country has become the puppet of this avenging dictator, and all I am claiming is that we have to do something about it. Men, Aurelius interrupted, I think we all have our own sins to account for. We allowed the system to be swayed this way, and now it has exploded back in our faces. But sitting here and discussing semantics won't get us anywhere. The fact is, what happened, happened. And now it's up to us to change the course of history for good. Well, if you are so well educated on the subject, Laxus said, then please, enlighten us with your solutions. Chapter 6. Planning a Putsch. We have to plan a putsch, Aurelius said. A what? A putsch, you know, a coup d'etat. I am not familiar with that word. It's a sudden takeover and replacement of the government, Aurelius explained. That's what it is. We'll go in, take them out, and start ruling the country. I know. You might be thinking that it's impossible, but the sad truth is that it has happened numerous times throughout history. It's not that crazy, actually. Several words were spoken after that. The meeting ended quickly, partially because they didn't want to stay up too late. The curfew was strict and early, but the later they would be on the streets, they heard, the more severe their punishment would be. The men in the meeting shook hands and left. Aurelius found his way home after turning around the corner of several buildings. But when he arrived at his door, he heard a voice. Hold it right there, it said. He stood still. This was not good. It was trouble. Show me your passport, a black soldier said as he approached Aurelius. There were 3 other soldiers with him, obviously under the command of the one who talked to him. Aurelius turned around and admitted, I don't have my passport on me, O exalted one. No passport? And 30 minutes past the curfew? What do you have to say for yourself, transgressor? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't arrest you right now and drag you to the deepest dungeon in our holy castle. Aurelius was annoyed. He was caught. How was he going to talk himself out of this one? Please, he begged. My family is inside. I just overstayed a little. I was trying to get home on time, but forgot about the time. Besides, my passport is inside. I can go get it if you let me. The soldier didn't look very merciful. You whites are so full of nonsense, he said. No more excuses. I'm sick of it. You transgressed the law and will be punished. Men, arrest this man. He will pay for his insolence. No, Aurelius said as he was being grabbed and dragged away. His wife opened the door and saw what was happening. She ran outside and followed the soldiers. Please let my husband go, she begged as she fell on the floor. Your husband will come with us, madam. Show your respect by bowing to us. One more outburst and I will arrest you too. Now go inside. I'm sure your kids need you. There was nothing she could do. Or was there? Determined to find out where her husband was being taken to, she ran back inside and held Bethania in her arms, placing her hands on her shoulders. Listen, Bethania. Watch the other 2 while I am gone. Lock the door and don't let anyone in except for me. I should be back soon. Yes, Mom, Bethania said. Amelia put on her jacket and ran into the direction where she had seen the soldiers disappear. She was back on track and saw them with Aurelius. After following them for some time, she hid around the corner of a back wall and watched as they threw her husband in a prison cell. There was a window with bars so that she could still go there and talk to him, but cautious as she was, she waited for the soldiers to leave first. Psst, she said when she came closer. Amelia, Aurelius said excitedly. Don't worry, she said. I'm not going to stay, but I will get help now that I know where they are keeping you. I love you. Don't let them do anything to you, okay? I will send someone to get you out. They kissed each other through the bars of the prison cell, and Amelia hurried back to the city. She was aware of the curfew as well. Silently, she tiptoed through the obscure streets, making sure that no patrol would run into her as well. After several streets, she arrived at a friend's house. She knocked on the door and her friend opened up. "Amelia," she said, "you shouldn't be here. There are soldiers everywhere. If they find out you are not obeying the curfew rule, they will lock you up." "That's exactly why I am here," Amelia said. "They put my husband into prison. I need your help. Please, anything to get him out." Her friend's husband came to the door. "What's going on? Did you say Auridius is in prison?" "Yes, it's terrible, and I don't know what to do." "Don't worry, Amelia," he said. "You have always been there for us. We'll help your husband." Moments later, the man, whose name was Augustus, followed Amelia to the castle prison with a crowbar. They snuck through the streets and arrived at Auridius's cell, who was happy to see them. "Just hold on," Augustus said. "You have a courageous wife. If it wasn't for her, I would have never found you. Here, let me show you a little trick I learned when I was, taking care of things at my job." He put the crowbar in the right position and applied some quick trick to turn the leverage of his pulling power into breaking the bars one by one. "Wow," Auridius admitted. "That's very impressive." "Let's go home before anyone sees us," Amelia said. "No," Auridius decided. "I love you, Amelia, but this has to stop. Augustus, get the other ones from the meeting again. We will end this evil reign of terror this evening. When I sat here in my cell, I got a brilliant idea. We have to carry it out tonight, or they will come looking for me." Chapter 7. Treasury Takeover. The same people from the previous meeting had arrived at the secret cellar. "You better have a good reason to risk our freedom this time," Devious said. "I almost got caught by a bunch of patrolling Ender soldiers." "That is my point exactly," Auridius said. "Men, these soldiers are roaming the streets at night. Why are they doing that?" "Because they don't want anyone to break the curfew," one of them said. "Wrong," Auridius said. "They don't care. They have better things to do. What is the real reason?" "Because they are racist?" another one said. "Maybe some of them, but not all. Come on, men, think. What is fueling this outrageous movement the king is leading? What can't they do without in order to function? What will break the system if it is gone?" "Courage," one of them said. I am looking for something else, guys. Come on." Then somebody said it. "Money?" "Ha! Good one," Auridius said. "Money?" they all said, looking at each other, surprised. "Yes, money, of course," Auridius said. "Why would you be on patrol if you don't even get paid for it? Why would you do anything you don't want to, unless you get a reward in return? The king relies on it as much as anyone else. If he cannot pay his men, they will leave him. If he cannot support his goals financially, they will discontinue. Make the money disappear, and all his promises will be in vain. Get it?" "Got it," Laxus said. "But how do you suggest to rob him of his money?" "That, my good friends, is the big challenge. Who knows where the treasury is located?" One of them raised his hand. Plans were being made. Roles were discussed. Estimates were being calculated. They needed men, lots of men, to take care of the king's treasury. The 16 men split up into groups and knocked on various doors in the city. Within hours, the men were joined by 100 other whites, all with a desire to overthrow the evil dictator. It was 3:00 a.m., and although the citizens of the coast country were all fast asleep, the 116 brave men who plotted against the king were busy little bees. "Let's head that way," Auridius suggested. "We cannot alarm any of the royal guards." The men were all hiding in the bushes near the castle walls, waiting for the opportune moment. 2 men snuck to the castle, one of which was going to distract the one guard standing in front of the treasury gate. He walked up to the guard, whistling an innocent tune with his hands in his pockets. "Hey, you, get away from here," the guard said. "You are not supposed to be here." "Oh, but I was just going to give you a tip," the white said. "Tip? What tip? You mean money?" Then the other man came from behind and banged him on the head. The guard fell down instantly and lay unconscious on the ground. "The tip is to always watch your back," the wight said, while smiling and stealing the guard's key to the entrance. Then he turned around, put his 2 fingers in his mouth, and whistled to the men in the bushes, waving with one hand and signaling that the coast was clear. The door, unlocked by the guard's key, led to a staircase leading to the castle wall. "Okay," Aridius said. 20 of us will go upstairs. 10 of those 20 will go inside the treasury and pass on the bags of gold to the 10 standing on the wall. The 10 on the wall will then throw the bags down, while the others take the bags of gold to the forest, the streets, etc. Does that sound good?"
"Sounds like a plan, Aridius," Laxus said. "You're the man."
While Aridius and a handful of other men went upstairs and took the gold from the treasury, the other men carried the bags away and distributed them quickly. With that many men, the job was easily done within a couple of hours. Aridius didn't realize the king had so much gold, but now that it was all gone, it had to be a sign that he couldn't live up to his promises. He was hoping that this would cause the miracle he had been desiring to see for years. Chapter 8. Mixed. The next day, the whole country was in commotion. In the city, people were running around and looking for security since the king had disappeared. Aridius was curious as ever to see what was happening at the royal castle. Black soldiers were everywhere, but they paid no attention to Aridius or anyone else. "What's going on here?" Aridius asked. One of the blacks, who didn't seem to mind talking to him like a regular person, responded, "The king hasn't paid any of his servants. It's like there's some big rebellion. Nobody is content. They are all looking for him. They are wanting a different king." "Thanks for the info," Aridius said. "What was your name?" "Garrett," the guy said. "Sounds good. See you later," Aridius said. He went inside the castle. The hallways were full with soldiers running around and looking to avenge their unpaid bills. Now that King's status was broke, they didn't care about him at all. They just wanted their money. Aridius decided that, since everyone was going one way, he would just go the other way. He snuck into a hallway opposite of the ones everyone was searching in. Then he walked through it and came to a door leading to a basement. After opening the door, he grabbed a torch and looked into the eyes of the Ender King.
"You," Status said angrily, "you and your people have done this."
He started beating Aridius immediately after saying those words, making him drop his torch and fall to the floor. Aridius blocked some of his attacks. "You brought this upon yourself, Status," he said while fighting off his punches. "If you had been a bit more lenient, your subjects wouldn't have rebelled against you." After that, he elbowed the king in the face, who lost consciousness. Aridius was relieved. He panted and looked at his body to see if he had been bruised in the process. Nothing. He picked up the king and snuck out of the castle, heading for the Grand Plaza. Taking the back alleys, he had the luck to run into only one person.
"Hey, is that the Ender King?"
the hobo who saw him asked. "What? No, that would be ridiculous. This is just some fan who dressed up as the king."
"But why is he knocked out?"
"Too much to drink," Aridius lied. "Thank you for your concerned thoughts. Now, as you'll excuse me, I have to take this drunkard home to his family." That was close. He had almost been discovered. He thought for a moment and made a plan to turn the popular opinion around. Behind the screens, he went up the stairs to the balcony in front of the city square. There he laid down the king behind a curtain so nobody could discover him. He went back to the castle and looked for Garrett, the honest, sincere, friendly black man he had just met. He grabbed him by the arm and took him to the balcony.
"What are we doing here? Could you please explain?"
Garrett asked. "Just play along, please," Aridius whispered. Then he jumped on the balcony railing and addressed the crowd. "People of the coast country," he started, "your king has failed you. See?" He took the king and showed him to the people. Everybody was shocked. The king had been knocked out after trying to escape the chaos due to the financial disaster. "He tried to flee. He has not lived up to his promises," Aridius continued. His rules were far-fetched, and his tyranny has come to an end. No more racism, no more discrimination, no more force. This country shall be a free country. There is no rightful heir to the throne anymore, only this corrupt king. Therefore we shall have elections. You, the people, will have the power to rule the country by choosing your leaders. And as the one who holds the power, by holding the Ender King in my hands, I am telling you that we will always have 10 people ruling the country, 5 of which will be black and 5 of which will be whites. This is the only way. Can you support me in that?" The people were quiet. They had never heard such a reasonable suggestion before. The racist mindset had crept into their minds for decades, but for some reason, they felt good about this new reign, this new era of equality. Many of them were mumbling. Aurelius looked at them. He wasn't going to wait for their stupid responses. He simply took initiative and expected the rest of the people to follow him like sheep. It's human nature, anyway. He jumped back behind the railing and introduced Garrett. "This is my friend," he said. "He will help me with the elections." After saying that, he shook Garrett's hand and embraced him like his own brother.
"I can get into this," Garrett said with a smile. "Thank you for getting me involved. I always wanted to be in politics."
"You're very welcome," Aurelius said. The people cheered. White people and black people were all happy. They had seen the union between 2 different skin colors. They had seen the open-heartedness and respect Aurelius and Garrett were showing each other. It was as if the symbol had immediately changed their way of thinking. The duo was leading by example. Everyone celebrated. Blacks and whites were shaking hands all across the plaza. Aurelius and Garrett walked down after commanding the soldiers to cuff Status, the previous and dethroned dictator. When they came downstairs, Aurelius's family greeted him. His wife hugged him and kissed him with tears of happiness on her cheeks.
"Dad?"
Selena said. "Yes, what is it?" Aurelius said as he squatted down to her level and smiled at her.
"I think I will vote for you."
"Thanks, sweetie," Aurelius said.
"Me too, Dad,"
Maticia said.
"Me too,"
Bethania added. "That gives me at least 3 votes," he said as he looked at Garrett. Garrett laughed. The end. This has been The Wicked King, a story of rebellion and racism, kids' adventure stories, written by Jeff Child, narrated by John H. Feskins. Copyright 2017 by Jeff Child. Production copyright 2017 by Jeff Child.